In the gentle hills of Aluma, where palm trees whispered secrets to the wind and red earth paths led to homes filled with laughter and hardship, lived a boy named Tari. He was not the kind of boy who drew attention. In fact, most people forgot he was in the room until he spoke, and even then, his words came with hesitation, as if he had to first weigh them in his heart. Tari had once been the pride of his father, Baba Tekena, a jovial man with strong arms, bright eyes, and a voice that could make the elders hush just to listen. "My son, Tari, is going to light up this town one day," Baba used to say, patting the boy's back with pride. "He may be quiet, but inside him is thunder." But that thunder had long been silenced. When death came knocking on their small home, it took Baba Tekena in a single week, leaving behind only the smell of old herbs and the echo of unfinished laughter. Tari was just 10 when he saw the strongest man he knew become a still body wrapped in white. Since then, the boy with the wide eyes had become the boy with the silent eyes. He stopped playing with the other children, choosing instead to sit by the window with his school books untouched. His mother, Mama Tari, would knock softly on his door every morning with a plate of yam porridge and say, "Eat something, my son. You are not alone in your pain." But silence was his only reply. Tari found comfort in food, sweet, soft, filling. When words failed, the taste spoke. The more he ate, the more invisible he became in the eyes of his peers. They mocked him behind his back and sometimes right to his face. "Look, it's the walking potbelly," they'd shout, and laugh until he disappeared again into his house, cheeks red with shame. But Mama Tari never gave up. "Tari, your father would want you to be strong. You are not weak," she would say one night as she sat beside him, her hand gently stroking his curly hair. "You are not just his son. You are mine. And my son is a warrior, not a shadow." He didn't answer, but deep within, her words trembled against the walls he had built. It was during the dusty harmattan of that year, when the air was dry and lips cracked like old leather, that Zina arrived in Aluma. Zina was unlike anyone Tari had ever seen. Her beauty was not just in the way her skin glowed like sun-polished bronze or the way her eyes sparkled like morning dew. No, it was the way she walked with purpose, as if even the wind asked for her permission before blowing past. She had just moved into the compound 2 houses away, with her mother and younger brother. Tari first saw her from his usual place by the window, holding a plate of puff-puff and laughing with a group of girls who instantly adored her. Her laughter reached his heart before her beauty did. Something moved in him that day. Something small, but alive. "Who is she?" he asked his mother that evening for the first time in months. Mama Tari almost dropped her spoon. "You spoke, Tari." He looked away, embarrassed. "She's new," she said, hiding her joy. "Name's Zina. Came from Port Harcourt. Her mother sells fabrics at the market. Her father died too some years back." Tari mumbled, pretending not to care. But that night, he dreamt of her smile. The next day, Tari did something he hadn't done in 2 years. He stepped outside. The neighborhood kids froze mid-play when they saw him. "Is that Tari?" one of them whispered. "Ah, is he sick?" Then came the laughter. "Hey, it's Potbelly Prince! Tari the Tank!" Tari froze, the old shame crawling up his throat, but then a soft voice cut through the crowd. "Hey, leave him alone," Zina said. Everyone turned. Zina stood between Tari and the laughter like a shield made of fire. "You think it's funny to mock someone for how they look?" she asked, eyes flashing. The boys looked down. She turned to Tari and smiled. "Hi, I'm Zina. Want to walk with me?" No one had ever asked him that. He nodded. I'm Tari." "I know," she said. "Your mom talks about you all the time at the market." As they walked past the kids, Tari glanced at her. "Why did you do that?" Zina shrugged. "Because you looked like you needed someone to stand beside you." From that day, the two became inseparable. They would walk through the palm paths together, sit by the riverbank, or talk about the stars while chewing roasted maize. Zina would tell wild stories about her dreams of the big city and fame. Tari would laugh more now, even tease her gently, calling her Queen of Aluma. But in his heart, something was blooming, something deeper than friendship. A flame. A devotion. A love he didn't yet understand. Zina made him feel like the thunder inside was waking up. And even though he didn't know it yet, this would be the love that would change the course of his life. Zina became a common sight in Aluma. Where she walked, he followed, not out of weakness, but out of admiration. It was as if her light had found his shadow and offered it companionship. They spent long afternoons beneath the Udala tree, tossing pebbles into the stream, sharing roasted groundnuts and dreams. But what the world saw was different. "He's lucky," the town girls would whisper. "How did a boy like that end up with a girl like her?" Tari heard them sometimes. Their laughter came sharp, cutting through his chest like a razor in slow motion. But every time he looked at Zena and saw her smile back at him, every insult melted like morning mist. She made him feel seen. And to Tari, that was enough. One hot evening, as they strolled through the narrow footpath behind the cassava fields, Tari turned to her. "Zena, Zena," he said softly. She didn't answer. She was busy plucking a frangipani flower and tucking it behind her ear. He repeated it, this time with more courage. "Zena." She looked up. Do you ever think about the future?" She squinted at him. "What kind of question is that? I mean, do you think we'll still be walking together like this? 10 years from now?" She laughed. 10 years? I can barely think about next week. But if we are, I hope you'll have learned to wear better slippers by then." He chuckled shyly. "Why do you ask?" she added, suddenly curious. "I don't know. I guess I just don't want things to change." She stared at him for a moment, then, unexpectedly, she reached for his hand. "They don't have to," she said, "unless you change." He looked at their hands, fingers interlocked like roots under the earth. "I won't," he whispered. But even as the words left his lips, part of him feared he couldn't keep that promise. Not because he would change, but because life would. Mama Tari noticed her son's blossoming joy. She would often peer through the curtain, smiling faintly as she watched him laugh, really laugh, for the first time in years. One night, as she watched him return from another long evening walk, she called him into the kitchen. "My son," she said, placing a warm piece of fried plantain into his palm. "That girl, Zena, she makes you happy." He nodded. "But happiness is not always proof of love. Sometimes it's only a shadow of it." Tari frowned. "Mama, why would you say that?" "Because I am your mother," she replied, eyes serious now. "And mothers watch. That girl walks beside you, yes? But does she walk with you?" He said nothing. He didn't understand the difference yet. Zena, on the other hand, was a master at giving what looked like affection, but was often convenience. When she wanted akara, Tari ran to the market. When she needed help with homework, he stayed up all night to do it for her. When she wanted attention, she knew just how to touch his arm and say his name in a way that made his knees weak. "Tari," she'd coo, "you're so sweet. I don't know what I'd do without you." And each time his heart would race. He believed her. He wanted to. But she rarely asked him about his dreams, rarely noticed when his eyes looked tired or his hands bore grease stains from helping his mother in the kitchen. She liked being admired. She liked being adored. But she never offered the same in return. Still, Tari loved her. One day, after a particularly long day at school, Zena found him fixing a neighbor's broken bicycle. "Tari, I'm tired," she said, dropping her bag dramatically. "Carry my books." He stood up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Zena, Oh, please, don't tell me you're tired too," she rolled her eyes. Without protest, he took her books. As they walked, she began talking about the new boy in class, Daniel, whose father drove a Toyota. "You should see the car. It even has a radio that speaks English, not that static nonsense your old radio makes," she laughed. Tari smiled weakly. "I'll get a car like that one day." She gave him a sidelong glance. "I hope you do. You're a nice guy, Tari, but nice isn't enough in this life. A girl has to dream big, you know?" He nodded. "Then let me be your dream." For a brief second she paused, then she laughed again. "You're funny, Tari. I like that about you." And that was all he needed to believe, that maybe, just maybe, she felt something more than friendship. The truth was, Zena liked having someone who adored her. Tari was loyal, kind, and always present. But her heart? Her heart longed for more. More sparkle. More flash. More than what she saw when she looked at the quiet boy with the wide smile and a little too much weight. Still, she kept him close. Because everyone needs a soft place to land. Especially when dreams haven't yet come true. And so, under the starlit skies of Aluma, with fireflies blinking like forgotten wishes, the bond between Tari and Zena deepened. But while he built a love out of devotion, she built convenience out of his heart. Neither of them knew yet that storms were already gathering beyond the horizon. But for now, in the warmth of the present, they walked, side by side. And for Tari, the days rolled into months, and Tari's love for Zina only grew deeper, firmer, like roots that would not let go of the soil, no matter the storm. He carried her laughter in his chest like a sacred song. Her voice was the music to his day, her eyes the compass of his heart. But love, when unbalanced, begins to bruise. Zina had become comfortable in Tari's devotion. Too comfortable. It was no longer just books he carried. It was her chores, her errands, her burdens, and he bore them all willingly, almost joyfully. When her mother needed help fetching water, it was Tari who ran with 2 buckets, dripping sweat but smiling. When her younger brother's homework caused him tears, it was Tari who sat for hours, whispering the answers. When her shoes tore, it was Tari who saved pocket money to surprise her with a new pair, delivered with trembling hands and a heart that hoped for a smile in return. And when she said thank you, even if carelessly, it was enough to fill him with a foolish kind of pride. "Zina," he said one evening as they walked home under the purple glow of sunset, "what do you want to become? Like, in the future?" She scoffed. "A rich man's wife." He blinked. "No, I mean you, Zina. Who do you want to be?" She turned to him, swinging her braids. "Tari, I've scrubbed enough floors in my life. I'm tired of trying. One day a fine, wealthy man will come and take me away. I'll be sipping juice in a big house in Abuja or even London." He chuckled nervously. "You're already with someone who loves you deeply. Doesn't that count for something?" She smiled lazily. "You're sweet, Tari, but love doesn't pay bills." He looked down, heart tightening. "But I want to build something. For us. I want to learn a trade, get settled, start a workshop. Then I'll marry you." "Let's see how it goes," she said, her voice flat, as if he'd just made a passing joke. Tari didn't see her indifference. He saw a challenge. And so, with fire in his heart, he found a mechanic master, Baba Ojo, the finest auto repairer in the region. He begged to be taken in as an apprentice. Baba Ojo looked him over and asked, "Can you carry an engine block?" Tari smiled. "I'll carry the world, sir. Just teach me." He worked like a man with a mission. Grease-covered hands, long hours under the sun, cuts, burns, bruises, all endured with one name echoing in his soul. Zina. At the same time, Zina enrolled in a small salon to learn hairdressing, but she never showed much interest. "Tari will take care of me," she'd say, laughing with the other girls. "I'm just here to pass time." One of the girls, Ada, once warned her, "You better treat that boy right. He's kind. 1 in 1,000. "Kind?" Zina smirked. "He's chubby, poor, and obsessed with me. Let's not pretend he's a catch." Ada stared at her. "But he's faithful. He serves you like a queen." "Exactly," Zina said proudly, "and I'm not done being queen yet." Meanwhile, Tari saved every spare coin he could. Sometimes, he'd skip lunch just to buy her small gifts, a scarf, a bracelet, a snack she liked. And every time she said, "Aw," his heart would melt. His mother noticed. "Son," Mama Tari said gently one night as she handed him hot tea, "does she love you?" He paused. She's with me, Mama." "That's not the same thing," she said. "Being with someone is not the same as choosing them." He didn't answer, but something flickered in his eyes. One Sunday afternoon, Zina's family needed help painting their living room. Tari canceled his shift at the workshop and arrived with a brush and 2 buckets of whitewash. As he painted, shirt soaked with sweat, Zina lounged on a chair, legs crossed, sipping orange Fanta. "Don't forget the corners, Tari," she said cheerfully. "I won't," he replied breathless. Her mother watched silently, her gaze unreadable. By evening, Tari had painted the whole room, swept the compound, fetched water, and even helped prepare soup. As he left exhausted, Zina pecked his cheek lightly. "Thanks, superstar," she said with a wink. That small gesture was enough to make his entire week. He walked home, shoulders aching, but smiling like a man who had won the lottery. And so the pattern continued. Day after day, week after week, he gave, she received. He loved, she tolerated. But love has a way of blinding even the wisest hearts, especially when it wears a smile and calls your name sweetly. Tari never saw the seeds of selfishness growing in Zina's heart. He was too busy watering his hope. And Zina? Time, she was like too busy. The river behind the cassava fields did not stop flowing. Tari's hands grew stronger, his shoulders broader, and his spirit more determined. He was no longer the chubby hat, uncertain boy hiding behind curtains. Under Baba Ojo's mentorship, he became the workshop's rising star, able to diagnose a car's problem just by listening to the engine's cough. Baba Ojo often clapped his back and said, "This one, he's gold. If my daughters weren't already married, eh? I'd tie him down with bride price today." Tari would laugh shyly, but inside his heart whispered only one name, Zina. She remained the center of his universe, his reason, his reward, his radiant star. Even after 3 years of apprenticeship, he still brought her lunch every day, wrapped in newspaper, warm with love. Fried yam, boiled plantain, sometimes moi moi. "Wow," she'd say flatly. "Again with yam?" "I thought you liked it," he'd reply, placing the food in her lap. "I used to," she muttered, "but thanks." Then she'd flip through her phone while he sat beside her, waiting for a smile that rarely came. Zina, on the other hand, had become the talk of the town. Not for her skill, but for her beauty. Her hair always braided with the latest trends, her nails always painted red. But the scissors in her hand were often idle, and her madam was growing tired. "This girl," her madam said one day, shaking her head, "always dreaming about logos and rich men. Who will marry a woman who can't even do basic cornrows?" Still, Zina had a plan, or so she thought. One afternoon, her best friend Lami pulled her aside. "Zina," Lami said, lowering her voice, "you really should be careful with how you're handling Tari." Zina rolled her eyes. "Not you too." "I'm serious, he's a good guy, loyal, kind. You don't find that often." Zina snorted. "Loyalty won't buy me a house in Lekki. Have you seen Tari? He's built like a bag of rice, and he's just an apprentice. Please, Lami." "But he adores you." "So what?" she snapped. "I didn't ask him to. He's the one doing too much." Lami looked away. "One day, you might regret it." Zina laughed, tossing her braids. "Let that day come. For now, let me enjoy this free food and free devotion." Back at the mechanic shop, Tari's master sat him down after work one evening. "Tari," Baba Ojo began, his face serious, "next year, I'll be settling you. You'll get your tools, a small space to begin, and money to start your own workshop." Tari's eyes widened. "Really, Baba? I don't know what to say. Thank you, sir." "Thank you." Baba Ojo smiled. "You deserve it. Boy, you've worked like 10 men. That night, Tari ran all the way home, heart pounding with joy. He burst into the small parlor where his mother was shelling a goosey. "Mama, Baba Ojo said he's settling me next year." She looked up, her eyes filling with tears. "Oh, my son, you have made me proud." He fell on his knees before her. "I want to start planning, Mama. I want to marry Zina after I open my shop." She stiffened. "Tari." He looked up, glowing. "She's been there for me since childhood. I want to give her everything." "Tari, I know you love her, but love must be returned, not drained." He frowned. "Mama, you don't understand her like I do." Mama Tari's eyes darkened. "I understand women. I was one long before I became your mother, and I see things that your heart refuses to see." But Tari would not hear it. The next day, he told Zina the good news. "I'm getting settled next year," he said, eyes bright. "My own shop, finally. Zina, it's time. After I open it, let's get married." Zina blinked. "Married? Like, wedding?" "Yes," he grinned. "I want to build a life with you." She laughed awkwardly. "Tari, calm down. You don't even have the shop yet. Besides, I still have things I want to do. I'm not ready to be someone's wife and cook soup every day." He tried to hide the hurt. "But you said—" "I didn't promise anything," she said coldly. "Look, you're sweet, and I appreciate you, but you need to chill." He swallowed his words and forced a smile. "Okay, maybe in a year or two." She nodded absently, already scrolling through her phone. As the months went on, Tari continued to prepare for his future. He started gathering tools, pricing land, and sketching logos for his workshop, all with Zina in mind. She, meanwhile, had started catching the eye of a few men in town, especially Deo, the son of a businessman who drove a second-hand Toyota and wore gold chains. "Zina, you're too fine to be following a mechanic," Deo would say with a sly grin. "Come let me show you city life." She flirted back, just enough to feel powerful, but always came back to Tari, because he was safe, predictable, and always waiting. He was her emotional savings account. But love is not love when it is one-sided, and seeds of betrayal once planted never die quietly. Tari, blind to it all, kept building a future. Zina, blind to what she had, kept searching for more. The distance between their hearts was growing, even as their hands still held. And somewhere beyond the hills of Aluma, destiny was already stirring. The test of love was coming. The wind that blew over Aluma changed its tone. It was no longer playful and light, but thick with a silence that seemed to whisper warnings. Even the palm trees bent lower as though they too sensed what was coming. Tari was just a few months away from his settlement. His fingers had grown calloused, his arms firm, and his resolve even stronger. Every tool he bought, every bolt he tightened, he did it with Zena's name quietly stitched into his thoughts. He no longer looked like the boy behind the curtain. He was becoming a man. And his heart, still clinging to childhood dreams, wanted to begin its forever with her. One Saturday afternoon, under the mango tree that had been their meeting spot since they were 15, Tari took a deep breath and reached into his pocket. He brought out a small velvet box, one he had begged a trader to sell him for half the price. Inside was a simple gold-plated ring. "Zena," he said, voice trembling like a string pulled too tight. "I've been waiting for this moment for a long time." She raised a brow, chewing on a stick of sugarcane. "What moment?" He knelt. Her mouth opened slightly, caught between confusion and disbelief. "I want to marry you," he said, eyes searching hers. "I've loved you since the first time you smiled at me. I've worked, saved, prepared for you. Please, be my wife." There was silence. The breeze paused. Even the leaves stopped rustling. Zena slowly looked around to see if anyone was watching. Then she gave a small, half-smile. "I like you, Tari. You're sweet," she said, standing up. "But marriage? You don't even have a shop yet." "I will," he said quickly. "Baba Ojo is settling me next month. With what he gives me, I'll open my workshop and plan our wedding. You'll never have to struggle again." She laughed nervously. "You're serious?" He stood, heart pounding. "More than I've ever been." Zena glanced at the ring. It sparkled in the fading sun. So did the idea of the money. "All right," she said, shrugging. "Let's do it. But promise me something. Anything. When the money comes, I'll help manage it. You know how men are with money. You'll just waste it on tools and chairs. Let me hold it. I'll keep it safe for us." Tari hesitated. Then he nodded, smiling with pure relief. "Yes, of course. You're going to be my wife." When he told Mama Tari, her face turned pale. "You what?" She said, "Yes, Mama," he grinned. "She'll marry me after I'm settled." Mama Tari gripped her wrapper tightly. "My son, are you sure? She's not just saying yes because of the money?" Tari's smile faded just a little. "Why do you always doubt her?" "Because I'm a woman, and I've watched her for years. She has never loved you, Tari. You love for both of you. But that doesn't last forever." He turned away, anger rising. "You don't know her. You don't know what we've been through." Mama Tari whispered, "You don't either." Meanwhile, across town, Zena was already sharing the news with someone else. Ken, a tall, smooth-talking police officer who had just arrived in Oluma on temporary assignment. He was everything Zena had imagined in her daydreams. Confident, handsome, with the city on his tongue and perfume in his collar. "You're engaged?" Ken asked, laughing as he sipped his drink. "Relax," Zena replied with a smirk. "To a mechanic." Ken leaned in. "Then why are you here with me?" "Because I know what I want," she said, "and I know who can give it to me." Ken's eyes sparkled. "And what if I ask you to marry me instead?" She raised her brows. "Are you serious?" "As a gun on my belt." They laughed. Back in the workshop, Tari was full of light. Baba Ojo had confirmed it. He would be settled with 7 million naira, tools, and a recommendation letter. His future had finally opened its arms. "I'm traveling to Enugu for a week," Baba Ojo told him. "When I return, I'll hand it all over to you." Tari nodded. "Thank you, sir." As soon as he got home, he rushed to Zena's house, almost tripping over a goat in the street. "I'm getting the money this week," he said breathlessly. "I'll give it to you before I travel. Hold it, guard it. When I'm back, we'll begin the wedding plans." Zena's eyes lit up, but not with love, with greed. 7 million, she whispered. That's a lot. It's everything I've worked for, everything I've saved, for us." She walked up to him slowly, touched his chest, and whispered, "You trust me that much?" "With my life," he said, and kissed her forehead. 2 days later, he handed her a small bag wrapped tightly with rubber bands full of crisp notes. She hugged him, but her heart was already elsewhere. The night before he left, his mother came to his room. "Tari," she said, sitting beside him, "if she leaves with that money, what will you do?" He smiled softly. "She won't. And if she does," he paused, "then I'll still survive, but I believe in her." Mama Tari looked away. "Belief is not love, my son, and trust must be earned, not handed like a bag of money." He was quiet for a long time. The next morning, he left for Enugu. Zena did not wave goodbye. By the time Tari returned a week later, the house was empty. Zina was gone, so was the money, so was his dream. He stood in the middle of her mother's parlor, numb. Her mother couldn't look him in the eye. She married someone else, she whispered. Left for Lagos with him, 2 days ago. Tari sank to his knees. When pain enters the soul through the door of betrayal, it doesn't knock. It storms in, sets everything on fire, and sits laughing in the ashes. Tari stood still in Zina's empty compound, unable to breathe. His chest rose and fell, but it felt like nothing entered his lungs. The woman he had loved with a heart more faithful than dawn had taken his trust, his future, and his dreams, and vanished. With another man. With his money. The same money he had worked for 7 years to earn. His hands trembled as he stepped out of the house. He heard a neighbor whisper, "That's him, the boy she ran from." Another voice, "Poor thing, he gave her everything." He ran. He didn't know where. His legs moved faster than thought, his vision blurred. Past the market stalls, past the old footbridge, all the way to the stream where they had once carved their names into the bark of a tree. Tari collapsed to his knees beside the water, and he screamed. The kind of scream that doesn't leave the throat. It claws out of the stomach like an animal, wild and wounded. It echoed through the forest, startling birds into the air. Back at home, Mama Tari wept silently. She had warned him, she had seen the storm, but no mother is ever truly prepared to watch her son break. Days passed. Tari did not eat. He barely spoke. He stared at walls with the silence of a man who had lost not just love, but a part of himself. Then one morning, a knock. Soft, gentle. The door creaked open, and Nora stepped in. She had been Zina's quiet friend in secondary school. While Zina flaunted, Nora observed. While Zina took, Nora gave. She had always noticed Tari, even when he didn't notice her. Nora had always seen the soul behind the eyes. "Tari," she said softly, placing a bowl of pepper soup on the stool beside him. He didn't move. She sat down. "You don't have to talk. I just want you to eat." He turned to her, eyes red. "Why are you here?" "Because you matter." A tear rolled down his cheek. "I gave her everything," he whispered. "And she took it all. She married someone else, Nora. She left me with nothing." "You still have your breath," Nora said gently, "and as long as you have breath, you have something." He looked at her then, really looked at her. For the first time, not as Zina's friend, not as just another face in the crowd, but as a woman sitting in front of him with eyes full of kindness and strength. Over the following weeks, Nora came often. She never pitied him. She never rushed him. Sometimes they sat in silence. Sometimes she told him stories from the market. Sometimes she left books behind for him to read. Slowly, the air around Tari began to shift. He returned to Baba Ojo's workshop and begged to work again, without pay, without pride. Baba Ojo agreed, tears glistening in his old eyes. "You are stronger than steel, my boy," he said, clapping his back. Tari began to work again, harder this time. Every turn of the wrench, every engine he fixed, he did it not to impress a woman or prove a point, but to rebuild himself, piece by piece. Nora stood by, quietly cheering him on. At first, the townspeople gossiped. "Can you believe he went back to work, after all that?" But soon, their words changed. "Have you seen Tari lately? He's glowing oh. Isn't that Nora by his side these days?" Nora and Tari became inseparable, but in a different way. There was no peacock display of romance, no grand gestures. There was only presence, loyalty, and care. One evening, as they walked home after fetching engine parts, Nora looked at him. "Do you still love her?" she asked. He stopped. He thought about the question for a long time. "I don't know what I feel anymore," he finally said. "But I know what I don't feel. I don't feel empty when I'm with you." She smiled. "Then let that be enough, for now." Months turned into a year. With Nora's encouragement, Tari took a small loan from her uncle, a stern but kind man who believed in second chances. With that, Tari opened his own mechanic workshop. It was modest but clean, painted blue with white lettering, Tari Tech Motors. Nora opened a small salon next door. They worked side by side, laughed side by side, healed side by side. Then one star-strewn night, under the same mango tree where dreams had once died, Tari knelt again. This time, there was no velvet box, only a thin gold ring he had bought with the money from his first successful engine rebuild. "Nora," he said, eyes brimming, "you walked in when I was nothing but a broken shadow. You stayed. You didn't fix me. You reminded me I was already whole. I don't have 7 million, But I have love. Will you marry me? Nora didn't cry. She smiled, and she said, I thought you'd never ask. They were married in a simple ceremony under the morning sun. The whole town came. Not to gossip, but to celebrate. Tari and Nora, the story that began with betrayal, but bloomed into beauty. From the ruins of one love, another had risen, stronger, quieter, and more true. And though the past still lingered in his memory, Tari had finally found something more precious than gold. Rolled over Oluma like gentle waves, smoothing over scars, polishing what once felt like ruins. Tari and Nora blossomed together. Their workshop and salon, two humble shops side by side, became the heartbeat of the town. Laughter always spilled from their windows, music floated on Saturdays, and the smell of fresh soap and engine grease became a familiar scent of progress. Tari had done more than survive. He had risen. The boy once mocked for his weight and weakness had become a man people sought for wisdom. His hands, once trembling from heartbreak, now repaired cars and carried his twin boys. Tabora and Tega on his shoulders through the marketplace. He had found success. He had found love, but most importantly, he had found himself. One evening, after a long day of work, he sat outside their home with Nora. The children were inside, chasing each other with wooden swords. Fireflies glowed like scattered stars. You know, he said, leaning into his wife, sometimes I still think of her. Nora turned her head slightly. Zena? He nodded. Not with bitterness, just reflection. Like looking at an old wound and remembering how much it once hurt. Nora took his hand. It's good to remember, so we never forget how far we've come. He kissed her fingers. You saved me. I didn't, she smiled. I just held your hand while you climbed. Just then, Tari's phone rang. It was the local commissioner of police. Mr. Tari, the voice said, you requested security for your expanding business premises in Lagos. We've assigned a young officer to begin duty tomorrow. His name is Ken Edwo. He comes highly recommended. Tari's heart skipped. The name, it hit like a drumbeat in his chest. Ken? Could it be? The next day, Officer Ken arrived. Tari stood at the gate of his workshop, watching as a tall, well-built man stepped out of a patrol van. His posture was confident, his handshake firm. Good morning, sir, Ken said. Officer Ken Edwo reporting for duty. Tari nodded. Welcome, officer. You're here to protect my business and my family. Yes, sir. You can count on me. Tari smiled faintly. I'm sure I can. Later that evening, as Ken stood at his post, Nora stepped out of the salon with a tray of food. She walked up to him with her usual calm grace. Good evening, Officer Ken. He turned surprised. Evening, ma'am. She handed him the tray. Plantain and stew. My husband says you're working hard. Ah, thank you, ma. Then he paused, looked at her closely. Something familiar stirred in his memory. Wait, do I know you? Nora smiled. Maybe. Do you know a woman named Zena? His face changed. Yes, she's my wife. Nora's eyes sparkled like a lantern held before a truth. She used to live in Oluma. Ken blinked. You're from Oluma? She turned and pointed at Tari, who was now walking toward them. Ken's mouth fell open. Wait, no, that's Tari? Tari stopped in front of him, hands in pockets, calm and commanding. Yes, the same Tari your wife stole from, along with my life savings. Ken swallowed hard. I didn't know. She never told me where the money came from. And yet you both used it to start a life, Tari said, his voice steady. A house, a new beginning, built on the bones of my trust. Ken looked away, shame blooming on his face. I didn't know, he repeated softly. I believe you, Tari said. But that doesn't erase the truth. Nora stepped in. Where is she now? Ken looked at the ground. At home, still struggling. She couldn't hold down any job. Tried to start a salon, but never learned properly. She's been restless, bitter. She misses the city life she thought she'd have. Tari exchanged a look with Nora. There was no vengeance in their eyes, only resolve. 2 days later, they sent a message through Ken. Offer Zena a job. As a house cleaner, salary $250,000. A week later, Zena arrived at the house, her once glowing face now tired, her hands uncertain. She walked into the compound, eyes darting like a deer in a storm. Then her gaze locked on the woman at the door, Nora. And standing beside her, arms folded, Tari. Zena gasped. You, Tari raised an eyebrow. Welcome, Zena. She fell to her knees. Tari, please. I didn't know. I thought I was choosing a better life. You chose yourself, Nora said quietly. Now you've come full circle. Zena bowed her head. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't return 7 million, Tari said. But you'll repay. with honesty and sweat. And so Zina began working in the house she could have called hers. She swept the floors Tari now owned. She cleaned the toilets of the woman he loved. Every day was a mirror, a memory. One evening, while washing plates, she paused, hands shaking. She whispered to herself, "This could have been mine." She looked out the window at Tari playing with his sons while Nora smiled from the porch. And for the first time in her life, not because she was broke, but because she was truly empty. She had traded gold for glitter. Zina rose before dawn every day, sweeping, mopping, folding sheets, washing the very floors she once thought too humble for her footsteps. The house echoed with the laughter of the children she could have called hers, and the voice of the man she could have married, but didn't. Each sound was a drumbeat of regret. She moved like a ghost through her chores, her heart heavier than any mop she held. And yet, Nora never mocked her. Tari never gloated. They were polite, distant, and frighteningly gracious. That grace hurt more than cruelty ever could. One evening, as Zina was dusting the bookshelf in the sitting room, she overheard Tari and Nora talking on the veranda. "She's changed," Nora said, her voice quiet but steady. "Or life changed her," Tari replied. "But it came too late." Nora glanced toward the living room door. "Do you still feel anything for her?" There was a pause. Tari sighed. "Yes." Nora looked up, surprised. "I feel sorry for her," he said. "But that's not love. It's memory, and memories don't keep you warm at night." Nora smiled, reached over, and held his hand. "You know what keeps me warm?" she said, eyes teasing. "What?" "The sound of our boys fighting over who loves Daddy more." She laughed. Tari grinned. "You too?" They both laughed, gently, deeply. Zina closed her eyes. She could still hear their joy from the inside, where only echoes reached her. She walked out into the back compound, sat beside the laundry bucket, and for the first time whispered a prayer, not for riches, not for escape, but for peace. "I made a mess of my life," she said aloud, staring at the sky. "But maybe I can still do one good thing." What came next wasn't expected. Not by Nora. Not even by Tari. One Saturday morning, Zina entered the kitchen, where Nora was preparing breakfast. "Madam Nora," she said softly, "can I talk to you?" Nora looked up, cautious. "I know I have no right to ask anything," Zina began. "But I want to leave. Not because I'm angry, but because I finally understand. I want to start again. I want to make an honest living, even if it's small." Nora watched her carefully. "And," Zina added, "I want to return the money I took. Slowly. It may take years, but I'll work for it." Nora didn't speak. She looked at Zina, really looked. The sharpness in her eyes had dulled. Her shoulders, once raised in pride, now sloped with humility. "You should tell him yourself," Nora said finally. "If your heart is true, let him hear it." That evening, Zina stood before Tari at the garden bench. "I hurt you," she said plainly, "and I'm sorry. I thought love was gold rings and perfume and flashy cars. I didn't know it could be worn hands, engine grease, and showing up every single day. I was blind, Tari, and I lost everything." He looked at her, eyes unreadable. She swallowed. "I'll be leaving tomorrow, but I wanted you to know what you gave me was priceless, even if I never deserved it." Tari's voice was gentle. "You did deserve it. You just didn't recognize it." She nodded, fighting back tears. "I'll work. I'll pay back the money." Tari stood. "Keep it." Her eyes widened. He continued, "Let that money be the seed of your new life. Just promise me you'll never break a heart again, not even your own." Zina fell to her knees, sobbing quietly. "Thank you," she whispered. The next morning she was gone, leaving behind a note and a box of neatly folded laundry. No drama, no spectacle, just a quiet departure. Years passed. Tari and Nora's names became legend, not because of wealth, but because of the way they lived. They opened a foundation to support apprentices and train young girls in vocational skills. They named it the True Heart Initiative. People from all over came to learn not just how to work, but how to live with integrity. One day, a letter arrived in the post. It was from Zina. She was now running a small cleaning business in Benin City, hiring single mothers and helping young girls stay off the streets. She wrote, "You may not remember the cleaner who once stole your dreams, but I remember the man who taught me what love actually was, by showing me what it wasn't. Thank you for saving me, even when I didn't deserve it." Nora placed the letter in a frame and hung it in the entrance of their foundation. "That," she said, "is what forgiveness can do." Tari smiled. They stood hand in hand as the sun poured golden light over everything they had built, brick by brick, wound by wound, grace by grace. And so, the boy with the silent eyes became the man with the loudest legacy. Not by shouting, but by loving well, by rising again, by choosing the heart that stayed. Always.